Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, this is the first episode of a new series I'm starting where I am going to be reviewing your budget, and I'm so excited. If you didn't know, I asked you guys in a video to actually send through your budget. This is something that I'm always reviewing with my clients, and so I thought, why not do this with YouTube too? And I was a little nervous. I was thinking, is anyone actually going to send their budget? But no, you guys have been sending through your budget, so I'm excited to deep dive. I've got one case study that we're going to have a look at today, and so I'm going to be sharing with you how you can actually improve your budget while I think you're doing well, and what to also think about going forwards as well. So without further ado, I just can't wait for this. Let's get started. Okay, so I have the first person's budget up here, and if you would also like me to review your budget, I will make sure the link is in the description below for you to do that. But just for a little bit of context, this person has stated that their main income is from a 9-to-5 job, and they also get paid monthly. So with this person's budget, they've actually included their net worth statement as well as their budget. So if you don't know what a net worth statement is, it is your assets minus your liabilities. In other words, I like to think of it as how financially healthy you are. So assets will be things that you actually own. So for example, any savings or investments or anything like that, you actually own it. And then liabilities are going to be things that you owe. So if you owe money to a creditor, for example, like if you have credit card debt, personal loans, if you finance your car, that means that you owe money to someone else, to a lender, and so that would be considered a liability. And I love the fact that this person does have a net worth statement and they're tracking it. This is something that I tell my clients to do all the time. In terms of doing a net worth, I think some people are scared to do it because they're like, oh, what if I have a lot of liabilities? Yes, that may be the case, but when you do your net worth, you can start to think about what you actually need to focus on, because it will literally tell you, like you'll be able to see the numbers there. So I would definitely recommend doing a net worth statement if you haven't already. So let's have a look at this person's. They have got their net worth for 23 to 24, and so I assume that this January was from last year in 2023. So in terms of their liabilities, so again, these are things that they will owe to lenders or creditors. They've got their credit card, they've also got a car loan, they've got another credit card, they've got an overdraft, and they also have a personal loan. When they started off the year, it seems like they didn't have any assets, so they didn't have any savings or investments or anything like that. So they started off the year as minus 16,000. So if we have a look, you can kind of see that they have actually started paying it off. And this kind of reminds me of where I started. So I didn't necessarily have credit cards with my liabilities, but I did have a car loan that was about minus 14 grand, if I can remember. And I also had an overdraft, and that was about 2 grand. So I can definitely resonate with this. But if I have a look in terms of their net worth, so January, in February, it started to go down a little. March started to go down. April, it started to go down. May, June, July actually went down radically. Okay, so I saw an anomaly between June and July because the numbers went from minus 14 grand to minus 11 grand, but the numbers actually didn't look too different. This person has paid a few hundred here and there, but I think the formulas just got a bit messed up. So I'm just gonna quickly update the formulas and let's see the actual number, because in August it goes right back up to 13,399. But again, the numbers of the actual debts aren't that different. So I think it's because it has a currency sign right behind it. So I'm going to take that off, and then it should update, yeah, for all of these. So actually from June and July, it went down from 14,176 to about 13,911. So that then makes sense because from July and August, it's gone down a few hundred as well. So I'm having a look, and actually during that time I can see from April this person also started to put money into their savings. So they have a section for house savings, and before in March they also had some money come in from some surveys. So I can see that they're starting to increase their house savings in May and June. And then they also started building an emergency fund. So they've started putting money in there, and also a sinking fund as well. So the only thing that I would say is, when you're thinking about your net worth, it's up to you if you want to include sinking fund savings in that. I typically don't do it, only because with sinking funds, I pretty much know that I'm going to spend that money throughout the year anyway, because sinking funds are just expenses that you're going to think about saving up for over time. So if, for example, you're looking to create a sinking fund for your car or Christmas or birthdays or anything like that. So I typically don't include sinking funds in the net worth statement, but this is something that you can of course include. The only thing is that it might skew your numbers a little bit, because you'll probably end up spending that money. So it's just for you to like kind of be aware with that. But I can see this person then started to put in money for sinking funds, and she was then also increasing her house savings. Now, just looking at this net worth, I think the one thing that I'm noticing is that there is a lot going on. So I can see that this person is trying to pay off some of their debts, and maybe they are overpaying just because of the difference in some of these numbers, but they're also adding money into their house savings and then their emergency fund. And so I think one tip that I would say, and this is something that I'm also trying to get back into as well, is having one focus and putting all of your energy into that one focus. And then once you've done that and that's accomplished, you can then move on to something else. Because what typically happens is, when you're trying to spread yourself too thin, you don't necessarily make a dent. So even with, for example, these debts, what I would be saying is you want to pick one debt that you're just going to focus on, and that's it. Of course, you'll do your minimum payments on the rest, but you really want to focus on just one and put all of your energy into that, because the quicker you do that, the less you'll then have to pay in interest. And also, if you get rid of that debt, you can then use those extra savings to put it towards something else. So I would highly recommend picking one focus. For me, I remember when I had my debts and I was thinking also about my savings as well, the first focus I had was building up a mini emergency fund. I wanted to save for a mini emergency fund because I didn't want to have to get back into debt if something happened. And so that was my one focus. I didn't do anything else apart from focus on that emergency fund. And then once I had it, I had my mini emergency fund, I then moved on to the next thing. And in my case, it was paying off one of my debts. Again, I made sure to just try and focus on one. There was a time where I tried to do like both at the same time, and honestly it just wasn't working, and I decided to go back to focusing on one. So if there's anything you take from this, especially when looking at your net worth, it is to decide on one focus, what's something that's really, really important for you that you really want to make sure you achieve this year. Focus on that first, get that out of the way, and then move on to the next one. And by the way, if you didn't know, this is something that I do with my clients one-on-one as well. Of course, I will look at their budget, but I will also be talking to them and figuring out exactly how I can help them save a lot more money. So if you are interested in one-on-one coaching, I'll make sure there's a link in the description below for you to book a call and find out more. But I think that's what I'll say about the net worth statement. Let's have a look at the budget, and I'm gonna pick one month and we can go through that. So with this, I've picked January 2024, and I like that this person has actually noted how many weeks they have until payday. So this person has noticed that they have a 5-week month for this month, whereas in December it was 4 weeks. So obviously they're going to be thinking about, okay, if I usually get paid every 4 weeks, but this month it's 5 weeks, I need to try and figure out how to make my money stretch so that I have enough. So I really like that that person has put this in there. So they've got their after-tax income, so it's about 1,700. and also another 205. I'm not sure what that's from, maybe like a side hustle or something, but you know, nice to have some extra income in there. And so their total income is just under 2 grand. So what they've done is they've got a section for savings, side hustles and investments. They've got one for essential bills and debt repayments, one for spending, and also one for sinking funds and debt overpayments. So these are basically the areas that I tend to also look at as well. If you've seen any of my past budgeting videos, these are the areas that I basically categorize everything for. So I love that I have been an influence on that, so that's amazing. So if we have a look at savings, we've got emergency savings of 657. We've also got 71p for sinking funds, which I probably would have actually added that into the sinking funds section over here. So I would have added that into it. Okay, the house for January, she's just made a note. So I think what had happened is the way the bank was, it gave the wrong balance, and so she actually ended up having to put that money to her bank instead. So she wasn't able to put money into her house savings for now. And also Views Bank HSM, I'm not sure what that is, but I guess that's another savings, and so that is 11 that she's got in there. So total savings is 669. I can also see from her budget actually that she seems to be implementing the 50-30-20 rule. So this basically suggests that you want to put 50% into your bills, 30% for spending, and 20% for any savings or investments. So again, this is, you know, a method that you can do. Typically I don't do it just because I end up saving a bit more, and yeah, I mainly base my saving on just really like what I'm actually working towards, but I definitely think that this is good guidance, especially if you've never really managed money before. So this is great, and I can see that with savings she has saved about 34% for this month, which is great. Okay, so let's have a look at essential bills. We've got a few essential bills. We've got some of the debt repayments in there, so the credit card, the overdraft. So what's interesting here is I don't know if this person is maybe living at home, because I don't actually see rent or mortgage on here or any utility bills. I see phone bill. So I think potentially they may be, you know, for example, living with parents. Yeah, so I think this person might be living at home, because I just had a look at what Black Horse is, and I think that's a finance company. So I guess this will be for the car finance. And these are all bills which don't include, you know, housing bills. So I think that this person definitely has an opportunity to be able to build savings, pay off the debt really quickly, especially if you don't have any housing expenses. In terms of the phone bill, potentially she might want to look at that. If her contract ends, you know, does she want to still get a new phone, or maybe does she want to switch to SIM only just to get some savings there? But again, I think the biggest payment seems to be the car finance, which I think is Black Horse. So this could be a debt where if you actually ended up paying it off, you would have an extra 300 to go towards your house savings, and that's something that you could potentially do. I remember that my car payment was about 282 at the time, and when I paid that off, it actually really helped, because then I could save a lot more money more quickly because of that. Okay, let's have a look at spending. So for gas, we've got 20, groceries, we've got 76, Slimming World, we've got fun, self-care, cosmetics, nothing for birthdays, takeaway/eating out, and miscellaneous spending. So the spending tends to come at 255. I think the only thing with spending is, my question would just be, is that realistic? Is that actually how much you typically spend? Because if you're maybe putting a budget for 20 on gas, but in reality you spend like 40 or 50, then that's obviously going to have an impact on your budget. So I think if it is realistic, if that's typically how much you spend each month, 100% great. But if not, then yeah, I would be thinking about, actually, have I made this realistic? Am I looking at my spending to make sure that I am budgeting it to the best of my ability? Because you don't want to end up then, you know, overspending on your budget and then having to like pull money out of your savings or anything like that. And then just moving over to sinking funds and debt overpayments, there's nothing currently there at the moment. Okay, so whilst editing, for some reason I didn't think there was a sinking fund there, but there actually is. So I think there is about 40 in that, and I'm pretty sure that is a sinking fund rather than a debt overpayment. So again, I think the question is whether you do want to start overpaying on some of the debts, just so that if you do end up paying it off, you don't have any payments and you can then put that towards something. So I think that would probably be my top tips with regards to your budget and your net worth. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I really liked looking at that budget, and as I mentioned before, if this is something that you necessarily need help with, if you want to be able to save your first 5k and use that to either pay off your debt, build your emergency fund, or even fund a down payment for your house deposit, that's exactly what I help you do in one-on-one money coaching. So if you want to find out more about working with me personally, I'll leave a link up here for you and in the description below so that you can book a call and find out more about working with me. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, what would you have done if this was your budget? I do post every Sunday now, so if you want to watch more content, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and I will see you next week.